Hello, friends. Welcome into Sons of UCF Live. Again, part-time Trelko not with us tonight, but have no fear. Our friend Brian W. Peterson is, I guess he's off the tax season. The Excel workbooks have been closed. Brian W. Peterson out of the mothballs and appearing here on the Sons Live. Brian, once again, I appreciate you always hopping in whenever needed. How did tax season treat you? Give me a lowdown on how you're feeling right now.
Rumors of my demise were highly exaggerated. Made it through tax season, no problem. It was a little
Great.
stressful there at the end, but we buckled down and we made it through that April 15th deadline, and I'm alive here to talk about
Great. Well, the good news is nobody cares, so that's fantastic. But
it.
Brian, what they do care about is a story that broke this week that ended up being much ado about nothing. But KJ Jefferson, out of nowhere, a mugshot appeared on social media. A lot of rampant speculation began, and then some folks did some digging. So shout out to guys like Brandon Hellwood from UCF Sports who were able to kind of dive in and get the specifics. Brian, which was KJ was charged with a misdemeanor reckless driving, which seems to stem from a speeding ticket and sort of the amount of miles over. This happened pre his UCF career. He negotiated to go back today or this week, rather, I guess, to Arkansas to get that handled, Brian. So seems to be much ado about nothing, but there was a brief 5, 10, 15-minute period there where Night Nation freaks out. So what do you make of the KJ Jefferson story that it was really kind of a non-story?
Let me tell you, there was a period where and we'll get to the transfer portal, I'm sure, later on in the show, because there's a lot to talk about there. But between the transfer portal tweets that were going on, or lack thereof, all the random tweets about who might be entering the portal, that was enough stress for me. And then I logged into Twitter again to find KJ's mugshot, just staring me back there. I'd had enough Twitter at that point. It was a stressful moment. The last thing we need is to lose our quarterback in the spring to some potential arrest issue. What's going on? But much to do about nothing. Like you said, it was a speeding ticket. He knew about it. The coaching staff knew about it. Gus has made a comment about the fact that he knew about this before KJ arrived, and this was all administrative at this point. He had to go back after the spring game and do what he had to do. The mugshot seemed a little over the top, if you ask me, but I hope that he is ready to do some reckless driving over some defenses here come fall when the games start getting played. So I'm ready.
Well, since we are a reputable news source, I should tell you that he was sentenced to 3 days of community service. And Coach Malzahn put out a statement that read in part, they were aware of the situation that took place in May of 2023. And KJ has been a leader and a member of the program since then. I guess, again, this is, kind of a 2024 problem, right? Which is rush to judgment, first person out there with the info. Let's start running rampant with rumors, right? Let's start running rampant with whatever we think. And then the truth comes out. We all go, and the truth story is not as big as the salacious story, Brian. But if there's any criticism here, do you think UCF should have or could have gotten in front of this? I mean, obviously they knew when the date was. Now, what I don't know, and we probably should have had somebody who has legal expertise on the show with us tonight. I don't know if UCF was expecting a mugshot, some sort of a booking. I don't know what the expectation was when he reported back to Fayetteville, but could or should UCF have gotten in front of this and said, we are aware of a situation with our quarterback, he's handling the legal process, and we have no further comments. Should something like that, do you think, have come out prior to maybe this hitting social media?
It's easy for me to Monday morning quarterback, no pun intended, the situation and say that, you would think that UCF would have been prepared for this. They would have known about it. As Gus said, he was aware of the situation. I'm sure that the coaching staff knew that KJ was heading back to Arkansas to go deal with this the situation with the police and the booking and, all of that, the judgment that was coming through. So you would think that they would have been a little more ahead of the game, prepared to make a statement. Hey, this is what happened. Here's the situation. It's all been taken care of, as opposed to kind of just letting it be a story that kind of, grew and snowballed on Twitter, people adding in their own perspective and, oh my gosh, what's happening here and what's going on with KJ. And I don't know. It just seemed like it was mishandled perhaps and I'm not a PR expert, but you would think that they would have been able to jump ahead and get on that story before it really became a story.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, hindsight to your point, yeah, you could have put a statement out, but I don't know what UCF expected. I don't know what KJ expected. I will say this, right? He put a video out on Instagram, kind of owned up the situation, said what happened. It isn't like he's ducking this, right? He went back and faced quote unquote the music per se. And who among us hasn't gotten a speeding ticket? I think if I understand Arkansas law correctly, which I really don't want to do, but I think if I understand it, it's the miles over the limit that bump it into a reckless category. So if he'd been going 10 miles, I guess per se, maybe that's not reckless, but because I think it was like 25 in excess, that becomes a reckless driving. So I think maybe the verbiage there is kind of nuanced. But short story long, to your point, much ado about nothing. KJ will do his 3 days of community service and come back. I guess the biggest news, Brian, out of all this, 266 pounds is what they listed him as. UCF had him listed at 240. Are you more concerned about the 266 or the 3 days of community service?
I am not concerned about that 266 at all. Put on the weight. Let's run some people over, run those defenders over. The bigger, the better, if you're asking me. As long as he can move, hey, I'm all for it. And,
Okay.
Frankly, I'll trust what the booking department at the Fayetteville Police Department says is his weight over what UCF football says his weight is. I think they used to have Mackenzie Milton listed at like 6 foot, and I don't think he was.
What? He's not 6 foot?
I don't think he was. I don't think he was greater than 5'10". So
no,
a little bit of exaggeration going on there by UCF. So 266, I'm all for it. As long as he can move and throw the ball, let's do it.
Well, either way, I'm glad the story that initially started off as potentially major controversy has turned into a dud. And hopefully we have no other hiccups along the way, Brian. We did have some hiccups this week. Portal season is upon us. 6 Knights have currently entered the portal. Latest entries are Stephen Miller, wide receiver, Goldie Lawrence, wide receiver, Nakai Martinez, defensive back, and quarterback Timmy McClain are the 4 kind of new entries. So I guess, Brian, assess where we are right now. Could have been worse, could be better. Obviously, some losses here overall. What are your puts and takes so far in 4 days into the transfer portal spring season?
Can I just reiterate? I hate this portal game. It's
You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that, Brian.
It's so stressful. Okay, you know what? Let's make it one portal opportunity per year instead of doing it in the fall and then again in the spring. Let's just have one. Everybody pick, you're either staying or you're transferring, and let's get it over with.
No,
the second one seems to be a little too much.
Seems excessive. Yeah,
it does seem excessive.
Yeah,
but no, I don't think that there's anybody that jumped out from the names that you just listed that have been in the portal other than Nakai Martinez, right? I think he's the one name that kind of caught everybody by surprise. He's been one of the names that we've heard a lot about. He was a highly touted recruit. Coming into the program, he got a decent amount of playing time the last 2 seasons, and I think everybody kind of expected him to be one of our starting defensive guys. And to see him enter the portal was a bit of a head scratcher. None of the other names jump out at me as surprise. I think we all expected quarterback Timmy McClain to enter the portal once KJ came in. It was obvious that KJ was going to be the starter if he did come to UCF, and I think that's obviously been the case from what we've seen. And Timmy wants to be a quarterback, right? He wants to be the guy taking the first team rep somewhere. So no surprise to see him jump in the portal. Some of the other guys, quarterback Gunnar Smith, he was probably a little bit further down the depth chart. No surprise there. I think he was a walk-on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he ever was factoring into the quarterback depth chart overall. So I think that's just a get somewhere to play situation.
Yeah. The older one that sticks out to me was Goldie Lawrence. This will be his second transfer.
Yes? In the last 4 months. Yes.
Yes. He's bounced around quite a bit. So I would assume that most of these are due to lack of playing time as opposed to some sort of NIL deal that fell apart. Hard to believe that with Nakai, but I can't imagine that if he was that important to the defense that we would let him go without doing something to keep him NIL wise. So my guess is that it's all playing time related with most of these guys. So that makes me feel a little bit better if that is the case.
Yeah, Nakai was the only one that kind of was a head scratcher. But look, we have a glutton of guys in that back end of the secondary. UCF's also in the mix for a couple of guys in the transfer portal. Kid of Ohio State, I think, is looking at UCF and that sort of back half of the secondary. So perhaps minutes were going to be a bit of a challenge this year, and maybe Nakai saw that. I will say, while he was good, Pro Football Focus listed him as essentially the worst tackler in UCF last year. I think he missed 16 total tackles, which is highest in UCF. And so perhaps, they were thinking of going in different directions, or he wasn't guaranteed some sort of a playing time. But I think the other, I guess, conundrum here, Brian, according to his Instagram, he's currently visiting UCF North, aka Boston College, where a bunch of kids that he's been close with, i.e. Thomas Castellanos, Jordan McDonald, have ended up. So maybe there was a little bit of, hey, you should come up here with us. Hey, I didn't get as many reps as I wanted to. Hey, I'm not guaranteed a starting spot, and perhaps that sort of comes together. But this is a tough one, though, because he was kind of the first of that hometown hero crop for UCF, and kind of start a little bit of that trend that has ended up well. So, best of luck to Nakai. Obviously, once a night, always a night situation on this one, but that's probably the only one that was a bit of a head scratcher. But let's move to the spring game, Brian. Did you catch the stream of that game while you're
Yeah, I watched it all. Yeah,
you watched it? Okay. Well, you may have missed a ton, and there's a lot going on, but who didn't miss it was Gus Malzahn. He was at the podium after the game and had this to say about his team's performance.
Played a half of football, let everybody play. It was good. There was some things that do a bit better. Bottom line, our guys were hustling. Overall, you look at it, from a head coach's standpoint, we had a really good spring.
So if you missed that analysis, it overall was good. There were some guys hustling, and they had a good spring. So maybe we should get more in depth, Brian. And to do that, luckily, our friend is back. That is right. Coach Paul Olsbury, once again, maybe for the last time for a while, because there's going to be no football. So I had to get Coach Olsbury in here one more time, Brian, because we might not get a chance to talk to him for a couple of weeks here. But Coach, first off, thanks again for always hopping in and joining us here on the show.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate being part of this. And I want to say something about the KJ Jefferson situation. I think that the UCF coaching staff was on top of it, and they really couldn't say anything until he turned himself in. I don't think it would have been appropriate or even smart to do that. So it's just social media these days. There's nothing much you can do to stop that other than what they did. But if you try to get ahead of something that hasn't happened yet, you're opening yourself up for some problems there too. So I think they handled it the right way, and I think KJ handled it the right way. And, you just social media is social media,
We got to get you on social media, Coach. I need to at Coach Lounsbury on Twitter next week. But before we work on that, let's kind of peel our way back to the spring game, Coach. Obviously, Coach, Malzahn said it in that soundbite there: half of football, half of kind of fun events. So in the half of football you did see, what was your biggest takeaway? What's the thing maybe that stood out to you the most in that 24 minutes of live football you saw?
We're better on defense. I think our linebacker core has really shown up and has improved our defense a lot. I was sorry to hear about Nakai leaving because he's been a guy that we were kind of penciled in as a starter there. So, but I think we're better on defense at safety and at linebacker. And I think we need some depth at quarterback with Timmy leaving. I think we need some depth at running back with Cam Ingram getting hurt. We weren't real deep there in the first place. So I think we need a really good physical running back to come in or two. I think we need a little bit of help in the offensive line for depth. But I saw some receivers step up. I saw a lot of young guys play really well. The defense was flying around. And the thing I really was pleased about was the culture and the atmosphere among the players. One of the things that Coach Malzahn and his staff have done a great job of is creating a culture where the players want to be the best they can be. And they know in order to be the best they can be, it takes a lot of sacrifice. And it's sacrifice they have to give every day. And it's both physical and mental and emotional sacrifice every day to be the best you can be. You have to do that in whatever form of endeavor you're in if you're going to be the best you can be. And that, I think, is critical at this point because we're entering into a 3-month period here of off season which is the longest off season there is all year. You only have a little over 2 months, between the season and spring practice. So this is a critical time. And with that culture and that attitude and the coaches demanding that they have to, they have to pay, they have to sacrifice every day. That's the payment for being the best you can be. I like that attitude. I think it's the right one, and I think we have it. So I like that a lot.
Well, Coach, I was there at the game. I had a chance to talk to people in and around after the game and whatnot. And KJ's performance was probably the most talked about thing in the stands, and as folks were kind of talking, throughout the stadium, right? Obviously, he had some really good throws, right? He had a good throw for a touchdown to Randy Pittman. Jared Baker took a short throw and bursted up 71 yards. But he also had a couple of moments where he just kind of looked maybe a little uncomfortable. What did you see from KJ Jefferson specifically? And if you're a fan, how worried should you be about what you saw?
Well, one of the things that to me is a prime tenet of coaching football is that the quarterback has to feel comfortable. Even if he's not protected, he has to feel protected. I don't know if that was the case with KJ. I really don't know for sure what the situation, but I did notice it too. He looked great. And then a couple times he threw it in the dirt, so, and he's had a little bit of history with that when he was at Arkansas too. So I don't know whether it's a matter of just getting him more comfortable in the offense and feeling that he knows the protections and feeling better about being protected. That's a big part of playing quarterback. And
sure,
some guys handle it better than others. And I hope KJ, he's a proven winner, so I think he can handle it. I just hope he gets comfortable in doing it. And I know Darren Hinshaw is all on top of that, because Darren was one of those guys that did that when he was playing for us.
Coach, one of the theories I talked about in the podcast this week was, do you think there's anything to, KJ's a big physical player, right? He's used to taking contact. He's used to brushing contact off. He was not live during this game, right? And the rules in a game when you're not live is basically you touch the quarterback, it counts as a sack, right? Do you think the element of him not being live, which takes away kind of a real big part of his game, right? Because, again, he's a physical player. He wants to shove guys off. And when you now know that if someone touches my shoulder pad, it's a sack, do you think anything like that factors into him being maybe a little bit uncomfortable?
Yeah, it could. I really don't know where his mind is in that. But, it would be stupid really to have him under live contact. So, and same
for
thing
him or the other players.
Yeah, Kobe and RJ too. We know what those guys can do. So I just think I just think that I really don't know what his mindset is there, but we're going to find out. So I'm excited about what he has to offer, and I have a lot of confidence in Darren and Coach Malzahn and getting him squared away, and I have a lot of confidence in that offensive line, giving him time too.
Coach, we were just talking about KJ and his situation in Arkansas. They had him booked at 266. Is he 266 or is he more of a 240 like UCF says that he is?
I have no idea. I wouldn't have guessed he was 266, but he could be. Shoot, I hate to tell you what I weigh, so I don't know.
As a coach, would you rather him be?
Depends on how honest the Arkansas scale was, I guess.
Would you rather him be 266 and run guys over, or be a quicker 240?
I don't really know. I don't know what he's been in the past, and I don't know where he is or what he feels. I don't know if that's been monitored at all, and he's gotten slower because he's gotten bigger. I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you, but I don't.
Sticking with the quarterback, you mentioned that you think we need some depth in the quarterback room now that Timmy has entered the transfer portal. Do you think that the coaches are going to go try and dip into the portal and try and find somebody? Or are they going to try and promote somebody within the room now to try and take that QB2 spot? And if so, any ideas? I
don't know for sure. And I haven't studied what's in the room already enough to know. I know Dylan Risk and Riley Trujillo are very talented guys, and I know they got a talented kid coming in. So that may be enough. They may want to try to get a more experienced guy as a backup, but it's hard to find a good backup that wants to be a backup. Maybe if you're in the NFL and you're getting paid a lot of money to sit on the bench, that's one thing. But So I don't know. It's a very difficult situation that the transfer portal and the NIL has created. That's part of the problem with those two things, is balancing the roster that where it makes sense. So I was hoping Timmy was going to stay, because I thought Timmy did a nice job this spring, and I just wish him well wherever he ends up. But I don't know what's going to happen. I know we got talent that are young. I don't know if the coaches feel good enough about it not to try to find a seasoned guy, but they're not out there growing on trees either. So, I don't know.
Coach, jumping over to the running back room, you mentioned that you feel like we need some depth in the running back room. UCF has been known for having a pretty versatile running back room over these last, 4, 5, 6 years now. Give us your thoughts. I mean, it's kind of worrying to hear you say that running back might be considered a thinner area than perhaps what we were expecting.
Well, we've got 3 really good running backs with RJ and Johnny and Montgomery. I think they're all really good, and I think they're going to be the guys. But I know enough about football to know that those running backs get nicked up and banged up, and you really need to have 4 ready to go, I think. So I think we need to have one more. I thought Cam, and maybe Cam Ingram is going to be okay and be that guy, but I think maybe we need to add another one, and maybe we have one coming in that I'm not aware of. I really don't know.
Coach, a name that was kind of really circulating as well on the defensive side that was kind of impressive was young linebacker Andrew Harris, who I think ended up with 4 tackles, 2 sacks on the day. Obviously, not a name we've heard a lot of. You've seen some practice film. What did you make of Andrew Harris's performance, both in what you've seen in spring and what you saw in the spring game?
I also saw him play in high school a lot. He's from Lake Brantley, and he's a fast guy, got good size. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's going to help our depth at linebacker a lot. So I'm excited about him. I think he had a really good spring. And, the guys that we brought in are mostly upperclassmen. So I think he's going to have a chance to be in the rotation and be a really good player for us.
Obviously, Coach, they didn't announce like starting lineups or anything, so you really had to pay attention on the field. So it looked like, from what I saw in the stands, that Caden Kittler got most of the first team reps. That's what I assume was the first team. Got a lot of the first team reps at center. Do you think that indicates that he's kind of the leader in the clubhouse right now to take that starting center job?
Yeah, he is. He's been the starting center really with the ones all spring. The starting group for the ones hasn't changed a whole lot. Coach Hand is really smart about how he works guys in, though, to add depth. And so he may take a guy that's a center and move him into guard and get some depth at guard. I think we got some good players at center. Jabari Brooks and Walt Flynn, I think, are capable guys. But Kittler is the guy that's got he's got the experience at that level more than the other guys. So and Jabari can play guard. Flynn probably can play guard too. I don't know. I haven't seen him at guard much, but I think all of those guys are players. So I feel good about the depth, but I think maybe we need a couple more guys, and I think they're looking for a couple more guys to come in, whether they're centers, guards, tackles. I don't know.
It also looked like, Coach, that Paul Rubelt got a lot of run at right tackle. Again, I think he was part of that ones group. And to your point, I think Coach Hand rotated a little bit throughout the game, but looks like Paul Rubelt got a really good opportunity to sort of be that starting right tackle. Do you think, is that right tackle spot still up for grabs? Do you think Rubelt has maybe the inside track on that, or too early to tell so far?
They're up for grabs every day. That's what I talk about they got to pay the price every day. They got to compete every day, and they got to try to be the best every day. But Paul is one of those guys that does that. He's bought into it. He's trained. He's really trained hard, and he's gotten better and better. And I think he had a great spring. But nobody's guaranteed a starting job from day to day, really. I mean, you got to go out and do it every day. It's not something you earn and then slide by and keep that way. You have to pay the price. You have to make the sacrifice every day. And this offseason is going to be critical. But I think knowing Paul and knowing what he's done in the past, I think he should be the guy, because he works his tail off all the time. So we'll see, but I like what I've seen from him.
Obviously, you're an old O-line coach. What's it like? A 6'10" guy, that's got to be tough to coach. Or what are the challenges of coaching somebody at that size?
Well, you got to be
at an
careful
offensive
not
line?
to hurt your neck looking up at him, and you can't grab him by the face mask either. It's hard to get up that high, but they don't do that anymore anyway. But no, I bending and being an athlete enough to bend and get leverage is always an issue when you got a 6'11" guy like that. But he bends really well. He is very athletic. So I don't think that's a problem. I really don't. I think and the long arms help, especially in pass protection.
Coach, I think he called you old. You were just going to let that? Did you catch that?
He is old with OLDE. That's what it is.
It was OLE, coach. It was old ball coach. Yes.
Old ball coach. Paul Rubelt.
I'm glad to be old. The alternative's not very good.
That's fair.
Paul Rubelt, who was a Coach Josh Heupel recruit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We're still on. Yeah.
The German pipeline, Brian.
The German pipeline.
When he came in, he was very raw and inexperienced because the players here in America play football in high school and they have organized football for a long time. And it's the nuances of the game, especially in the offensive line, are things that are hard to duplicate. So it was hard for Paul to catch up in that area, but he's done a really good job. He's a tremendous hard worker and a very dedicated guy and smart. So
more importantly, he's big and you can't teach size.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't teach size.
Length is big too.
Coach, you mentioned the culture of the team in this particular spring setup that they've just gone through. Do you think that this is a more confident team heading into the 2024 season than perhaps we saw last year? Do you think that we're going to see any more swagger out of this team perhaps as they head into their second season in the Big 12?
I'm not sure there was a lack of confidence last year. I'm not a big swagger guy, and I don't think Coach Malzahn and his culture really encourages swagger, but I think they're confident. And I think when you pay the price every day, as I said, when you sacrifice to be the best you can be, there's a confidence that comes along with that because you've put the work in there. So I think that's the culture that is there, and I think with that we'll be confident. But I don't think these guys are overconfident. I mean, those other guys on the other teams are on scholarship too. So, right. I mean, it's going to be a battle, and they know it's going to be a battle, and they're willing to pay the price to participate in that battle, and that's a pretty impressive thing.
Well, Coach, you mentioned 3 months before we get this thing strapped up again. So you've got a little vacation time. Give us some insight. What's the next 3 months look like for Coach Olsbury? You going on any trips?
Yeah,
I'm going excursions plans?
I'm going to Hungary. I'm going to do a cruise on the Danube for about 10 days, and I'm going to have a big time, and then probably go visit some family around too.
How did you decide on Hungary? And it seems like a really interesting vacation choice.
Yeah, I did a river cruise in France a couple of years ago. It was great, and I was going to do one in Portland, Oregon, but it was more expensive than the one in Hungary, so I decided to do the one in Hungary instead.
I didn't know that they did river cruises in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, on the Columbia and Snake Rivers, they have a big deal there. It's just more expensive than I thought it would be. It's
not one of those the big paddle ships.
They do have paddle boats that do it, but they're not big ships. They're 300 guests maybe at the most.
The smaller ships, yeah.
And the one I'm going to be on in Hungary is like the long ships type of thing you see on TV. It's that kind of deal. There's about 150, 160 people total, max.
Is that cruise? Do you go on destinations like a normal cruise, or is it just strictly you're cruising for 10 days and you're just seeing the sights?
You go to different river cities or river towns, and they'll have excursions at each stop, and they'll have one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and you can go on whatever you want to. And if sometimes they have other excursions that you can pay extra for and go on that. I did that once in France, which was fantastic. I went into a cave that had human beings painting in it 36,000 years ago. 36,000 years is hard to wrap your mind around. I mean, Neanderthal man was still in that area at that time. So that kind of thing gets my interest up. So, but I'm looking forward to seeing Budapest and a lot of other cities and towns, probably some castles and cathedrals, and you know how that goes, wineries. There'll be a lot of wine partaking.
What's the weather like? I'm sorry, I'm not geographic savant here. What's the weather like this time of year, Coach? Are we going suns out, guns out? Is it chilly? What do we got?
No,
here?
it'll be nice. It'll be very much not like Florida so much, but more like mid-Atlantic weather.
Okay. Are you a tank top guy, like cut off shirt guy, shirt off guy? What's your game plan?
Depends on who's in the audience.
and that, my friend, is the truest answer. Coach, we can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on each week and getting a chance to talk some ball with you. Enjoy your summer off. Enjoy your vacations. Maybe we'll check in with you kind of midsummer, make sure things are good and okay. And can't wait to get this thing strapped back up in the fall and talk some UCF football. But again, much appreciation to you, all the fans in the comments. Always love you, Coach, every time you're on. So we appreciate you joining our show.
Well, I appreciate being here, and I forgot to mention I'm also going to become a great grandfather in late June.
So,
whoa! I'm going to go
the lead there, Coach. The cruise. I'm
going to the cruise, and then I'm going to go see my great granddaughter. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be my first great grandchild. So.
Congratulations, Coach.
Thank you. But I really do appreciate being part of this, and I appreciate Coach Malzahn and his staff for letting me go to practice and do all that too. And just go Knights.
Go Knights, Coach. Enjoy your summer. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
There's no nicer human on earth than Paul Olsbury, right, Brian? I mean,
it really isn't.
It really is not.
And he knows the game so well.
He does. It's always daunting because I don't know what to ask him, because I feel like I'm an idiot every question I ask him, because he's like, oh, why would we do that? I'm like, oh, why would we do that? But you know who's not an idiot, Brian, is Jeff Allen, who's back this week with a Big 12 minute. Here's Jeff.
After a couple of weeks of load management, I'm back on the case, and on this week's update, we focus on the ball and stick sports. On the baseball diamond, number 18 West Virginia and number 25 Oklahoma are tied atop the standings with 11-4 records. The Mountaineers have won 7 straight conference games, and the Sooners have won 3 in a row. Number 17 Oklahoma State is riding a 4-game conference win streak to hold on to second place, just a game back at 10-5, while Texas is 2 back at 9-5. Baylor has won 5 conference tilts in a row, and they are in the mix at 8-7. Turning to softball, number 2 Oklahoma holds down the top spot at 15-3, with top-ranked Texas just a game back at 14-4, backed by a 5-game conference win streak. Number 4 Oklahoma State is 2 games back at 13-5, Kansas 4 games back at 11-7, and UCF has entered the picture 5 games back as they have bolted up the standings. As part of their overall 10-game win streak, they are on a 6-game heater in conference. Elsewhere in the Big 12, the conference championship in tennis is taking place currently in Stillwater through Monday. The women's golf championship teed off today in Hockley, Texas, and concludes on Saturday. Men's golf settles their title Monday through Wednesday next week in Trinity, Texas. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
Well, that concludes our golf and tennis coverage for the year. I did not have Jeff Allen covering golf and tennis, but if it works, it works. We're waiting on our next guest to hop in, Brian. But before we do, NFL draft 1 week from today. Give me your prediction. How many Knights get drafted? How many times do we hear UCF or Central Florida, whatever they call us, called in the draft next week?
I'm going to say 2.
Okay, I have an unnamed person who may or may not be saying 2 in the green room right now. So you've got 2.
All right.
Who are your 2?
My 2 are obviously Javon Baker. We're going to assume Javon Baker, and we're going to go.
Sorry, what's with the dramatic glasses pull there? Are you okay?
Well, I had to see my notes. I'm
okay.
old. I'm old like Coach. I gotta be able to see things. So I'm gonna say Javon Baker, and we're gonna go Tylen Grable.
I think that's the correct answer. Yes, our friend in the chat here, our friend in the green room, is very happy about both those 2 options as a potential. JRP, Brian, obviously he's testing off the charts. He's probably more athletic than anybody really realizes, but that thing on his right shoulder, aka his arm, maybe the thing that holds him back. Any chance JRP sneaks in here someplace, either draft, maybe UDF? Any chance for JRP in the NFL?
Maybe he's an undrafted free agent of some kind. We've seen two sport quarterbacks have some success in the NFL. Russell Wilson comes to mind. He was a quote unquote a smaller quarterback that played baseball and had baseball aspirations as well. So JRP kind of fits that mold, if you will. So I could see him potentially filling some sort of quarterback role as an undrafted free agent, get onto a team, make it into the final 50 plus, on the team there or whatever it is, and maybe find a backup spot as a quarterback and then, slowly work his way into the rotation. Who knows with him? He's not the biggest quarterback size-wise, and we know the NFL likes their prototypical guys, so kind of a shoot up in the air with him. I'm not really sure.
I don't know how to feel about the Russell Wilson, the JRP comparisons. I don't know if that's blasphemy. I don't know which guy should be insulted with that specific comparison.
Earlier Russell Wilson, not later career Russell Wilson.
All right. Well, luckily we got a guy joining us. He does. He also lost one, by the way, at the goal line. Luckily, we have a guy who's smart enough to tell us all these things because you and I clearly can't do that. His name is Jonathan Adams, aka John Adams. He writes for Heavy.com, and he is a UCF alum, by the way. So we always appreciate UCF alums around here. John, thanks for hopping in, buddy. How are you?
Good. Sorry to keep you guys waiting, but excited to do this. Brian, that's a sweet hat. Is that like a throwback hat?
Yeah.
Or is that like a new throwback hat?
That's my old school hat. This is Adidas.
Wow.
One of my big regrets of life is that when I was in school, they had those old school Dante Culpepper jerseys with the cool striping.
Oh yeah, the striping.
And I was like, oh, like Russell Athletic, I think it was.
Russell, yep.
And I never bought one, and now I don't. I guess probably eBay. I could try to track them down, but
yeah, there's a couple of Chinese shops that can probably hook you up with those, John. But let's talk NFL draft with you. Brian and I were talking before you got on. How many nights do you think could potentially get called in this year's draft?
Well, that is a good question. You guys might have to help me out here, but I know obviously Baker and offensive lineman looks like he's kind of like a day 3 guy.
Tylen Grable, yep.
Yeah, and so if there's other guys that you guys want to know about, I can track it down for you. But those guys are kind of the two guys that garnered a lot of attention at the combine. Particularly Baker has been a guy dating back to the Senior Bowl, really stood out there. I know I wasn't there, but it seemed like he got a lot of buzz and then continued at the combine and continued it with, pre-draft interviews and workouts and that sort of thing. And so obviously he has the pedigree from dating back from being, an Alabama recruit, then obviously a standout at UCF. And so seems kind of firmly in that 3rd round range. I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks into the 2nd round just because there's so many receivers that are projected to go in the 1st round. But I would say if I was a betting man, which who's to say really, I would probably lean towards the 3rd round, but it wouldn't be like ESPN wouldn't stop the broadcast if he ends up sneaking, into the round. But there's just so many receivers that I think if you're a UCF fan and you don't really care, like you don't have an NFL team, if you're just watching on that first night of the draft on Thursday, you watch how many receivers go, and that'll kind of give you a good indication of where Javon's going to go in terms of, his range. If there's a lot of receivers that go early, that's going to help his case to get drafted sooner than later.
John, how do you think that helps UCF long-term, right? In the last, handful of years, right? We've seen Traquan Smith drafted. You've seen Gabe Davis drafted. Now Javon Baker. Bigger picture for recruits, guys looking to transfer. How much do you think when you see guys at the wide receiver position getting drafted out of UCF, how much does that help UCF?
I definitely think it helps. And it was one of the things when the UCF was doing that tour and I got to interview Gus with a couple of reporters, I guess it was last summer. And it was one of the things I asked him because I felt like it had been lacking in terms of UCF has gotten guys drafted recently, but it's kind of been in later rounds, I would say, or kind of like a special. And I think it's a thing that the program needs to get better at in terms of, I guess a lot of UCF fans have been spoiled because you had, Blake Bortles and Traquan Smith, Rashad Perriman, really guys that day 1 guys, right? And firmly day 1 guys. And I don't know if that's been the case in the last couple of years. And some of that, I'm not trying to pin that on Gus per se. I think some of the recruiting was lacking before he got there. And so there's always exceptions to the rules. Blake Bortles obviously wasn't a highly touted recruit. But if you look at the guys that get drafted early, they tend to be, a lot of them are 5-star guys with strong pedigrees, check sort of those boxes. And UCF is starting to get those recruits. But I definitely think it's an area that could improve because it does, right after how much money can you pay me in terms of this NIL era, is how can I get to the league, right? How can I get paid at the next level too? And so it can only help. And obviously this year with a couple guys that are getting buzz, so that helps. It only help, but I think it could get better if I'm being honest.
Jonathan, we've got a couple guys from the offensive line that are looking to get drafted. Lakahi Paule and Bula Schmidt. Any chance that they're going to be taken off the board somewhere, or do you see them perhaps going as undrafted free agents perhaps? What kind of stock do you think that they're bringing to the draft this year?
I'm not entirely sure, but I was surprised because how do you say the Gabble last name?
Grable.
He had such a good combine. If you look at his like measurables, but he's still projected to be like a 6th-round guy. In some places, he's kind of fighting to be like a day 3 guy. So I thought he would be a little bit higher just because he had such a good combine with some of the athletic traits he had. So I can dig into and get back to you guys and the other guys, but I was surprised that he's still kind of projected. But again, these are all projections, right? Like, especially when you're looking at like day 3, 5th round, 6th round, a team could have a 6th-round grade on the guy, and another team could have that even as like a 4th round, because these teams aren't grading for the whole league. Like when we do a mock draft, you're trying to project 32 teams, right? Well, that's not how they do it. That's not how they evaluate. They only need to grade for one team. And so I know it's a cliche that they say they're grading for their team, but that is really true. And so some of those guys are hoping that, all you really need is one team to fall in love with you to get a higher grade than maybe some of the projections. And especially when these guys are doing, I don't have to do 7-round mock drafts, but as you can imagine, when you get to kind of round 4, you're kind of grasping a little bit versus just doing like a top 10 or top 20. So it'll be interesting to see where those guys go. But I was kind of surprised just because I thought he had such a good combine.
Talk to us about JRP. I see that you've got a Seahawks helmet behind you, so you're
he did have a visit there.
Intimately familiar with Russell Wilson.
The Seahawks are one of the teams I cover. JRP is such a hard evaluation because obviously such a great guy, but there's I think a little bit of just watching UCF games as a graduate. It's a little bit of a roller coaster with JRP, and I thought UCF maybe should have covered this a little bit better in terms of who they brought in last offseason as far as quarterbacks go. They didn't do that. Then obviously JRP had the injuries, and I think that was a big storyline with this season. I was at the Tulane game, I think it was 2 years ago, when JRP was just lights out. So you see that. And then you see games where the interceptions really rack up, or he tries to take on a linebacker and he ends up injured and things like that. And so it does make sense to me when someone says Taysom Hill, like if there's a package, that you could run and have him as that kind of guy, that makes way more sense to me than maybe a traditional quarterback evaluation, mainly because I'm just concerned about the health and his frame in terms, but even if you look at Taysom Hill, he's built a little bit differently. So that makes the most sense to me as far as his when you're just talking about, you're just trying to, like any of us or in any career, you're just trying to get your foot in the door. And so if you're trying to get your foot in the door as like a Taysom Hill, that makes a lot of sense for me. It's not a fair comparison because Taysom's obviously had a few years. And I think he was an older prospect too when he came out. So he's had a few years, right, to put on some weight. And so obviously JRP will need to do that. But he has so much to like you look at the 40 time, there's so much to like, but that seems like a seamless transition to kind of start him as like a package. And see how he does with that.
Any chance we could see some NFL teams try and get him to switch positions to maybe receiver, which he has some experience playing as a wide receiver?
Well, that's what, like with Taysom Hill, he plays for the Saints, and there was rumors that he was going to compete to be the quarterback. But if you look at how he plays, he's under center a lot. They let him up at tight end. They let him up as receiver. So that would include all of that, where he would be catching passes, where he would be lining up as a tight end, where he'd be blocking. I don't know how JRP as a blocker, that would be, well, obviously he has no problem with contact, and we've seen that where he goes down to the second level and just trucks guys for better or worse. So I could see that. And I think that actually at Ole Miss, him being a receiver helps his kind of stock as far as that little package that I think teams, but there's been interest, right? The Seahawks interviewed him as one of their 30 visits. You only get 30 visits with players. So obviously they thought highly enough about him to at least kick the tires on it. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets drafted, and then if not, who he chooses to sign with, because that's also it's basically like a mad dash of free agency with these guys, and he wants to go to a place where he has a good chance to make the team. So I'm really curious to see how that goes.
I think the big difference, Taysom Hill 6'2", 220, JRP right now 6 foot, barely 200. So he's gonna have to put some pounds on to take a beating like that. But John, I know you don't get a chance to be around UCF with covering all the stuff you do with your day job, but from afar, what do you think so far about the 2024 roster that Gus has put together? Obviously, KJ Jefferson, returning RJ Harvey, Kobe Hudson, a lot of fresh faces on defense. From afar, what do you make of so far what you've seen or been able to kind of glean from the 2024 Knights?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think when you look at Gus's track record, he's the best recruiter UCF has had. And the question goes, what is he going to do with that talent? This will probably be these next 2 years. It seems like it's shaping up to be the best class he's had. So I think if you're to kind of, if there's question marks about UCF, it's the game day stuff, right? And how that plays out. To me, the biggest, if you want to say flaw with Gus last year was just, I think he loves JRP. And I think he was kind of, even when I was asking him here in Atlanta, I was just curious to see hey, is there, could there be a competition? Could you guys look at it, the portal? And he was very adamant, several times, that JRP is their guy. And so finding someone that loves you like Gus loved JRP, but it really put them in a bind just because of the health, because it really derailed the season, I think, when you looked at, him getting hurt at Boise. And so KJ is obviously built different, right? Kids say that, but it's also literally he's built different. When he just this brave, and I think his weight came out earlier this week for So
way to skip that, yeah. Good call.
But so I think I'm optimistic in that terms, but to me, I know Gus gets a lot of criticism, and people are going to say, well, you interviewed him, and so you're trying to stick up for him. If I'm just building a program in this era, the most important, 1, 2, 3 on the power rankings is recruiting, because I think you can find coaches that can figure out the other things like the X's and O's. And obviously Gus has a background with offense, so it's not that. So I think it'll depend on how he delegates those kind of responsibilities in the future as far as the coaches go. But from a roster standpoint, I think there's a reason why Knights fans should be optimistic, I would say.
All right, John, we always appreciate you hopping. I'll get you out of here on this question. Last year, we had you on for a little bit because you started a new side project, the Traveling Tailgaters, which is a really cool thing. So for those who don't know what that is, A, kind of fill us in, and B, what plans do you have for Traveling Tailgaters as the 24 season rolls around?
Yeah, no, last year as we launched, I think I did a power rankings of the Big 12 in terms of cities and a sports weekend that you could do. But I feel like the Big 12 has had a few new additions. So I think fans might want to see updated power rankings. I know I've seen some fans kind of on Twitter with their own. It's really just me trying to crash parties. And so this past year we did Kansas State and we did Oklahoma. I'm trying to think if I got to do any others. There's been some other sports stuff I've obviously done. And Kansas State was really cool because I had a friend there. And so we did Kansas State, and I did a whole thing, just basically randomly on Twitter, hey, can I come hang out? Which is kind of weird and creepy, but people are actually take you up on it, and basically just trying to see the scene. If you're to build a weekend from a travel standpoint, but you're just passionate about sports, which me and my friends are, that's we're on text threads about where do we want to travel this fall. And so I got to Kansas State, see their tailgating scene, do the game. And then the next day we did the Chiefs and their tailgating scene. And so it's just trying, especially with UCF being in the Big 12, I feel like there's just so many opportunities for UCF fans to travel and kind of build a whole weekend around it. So we're just kind of nerding out on best food, best hangs, best places, best stadiums. So it's not just the game day experience, but what kind of weekend can you build around it? I know this upcoming fall, there's the Greenbrier, which I'm kind of excited about. There's West Virginia, there's a football game, and then I was kind of looking at the basketball tournament, and you could it seems like you could maybe you guys could fill me on this, but I'm hoping I could try to do. My wife's from West Virginia, so I have family up there. So that might be a fun trip for us to try to do. But just stuff like that, just kind of nerding out on schedules and hotels and food options. And I kind of I always admired like Anthony Bourdain, his type of stuff, but there's not really like anything like that for sports. It's kind of really nerdy and not well done. So that's kind of the ultimate goal. And it's like you said, kind of a side hustle, like a passion that I'm still trying to see how fans, want the content. So if you have any tips, feel free to, I can't pay, just give me tips for free, basically, which we all want, right? Give me things for free, or invite me to your tailgate. I need to come down and do a UCF tailgate. I haven't done there in a while.
There you go.
Show me the ropes.
We need to have a Suns tailgate is what we need to do.
Working on it, Brian. We are working on it. We're working on it, Brian.
I definitely want to come down to a couple home games. I've been so passionate about these away games that I haven't been able to come to the bounce house in a couple of years. So I would love to check it out and crash.
Well, knowing our fans, they will probably hit you up at your X handle at John D. Adams with your recommendations, or invite them to your tailgate if you're going to have one. John, always good having you on, buddy. Appreciate you. I know you got a big week ahead of you with the draft and you're going to be busy, but where can people catch up with you? Heavy.com is where they can find your draft articles. Yeah.
And then I'm doing some betting stuff. If you want to lose money, Bet US. I have some just like fun pop culture stuff and betting picks that, who knows really. And then obviously the draft stuff this week, I'll have a few interviews. Looks like I'm going to have Jared Goff next week and maybe Drake May. So that'll be fun. Yeah, we'll see. And, but yeah, you just Twitter or X or whatever the next social platform we're all going to be migrating to in the future on the metaverse. Brian, keep fighting the good fight on the gold. I don't know if I necessarily agreed, but I know it's passion for you. So, you do you.
Don't.
We fight on,
John. Don't do
we
that.
live to fight another day.
I have a gold polo. I have a Golden Knights polo that I should just mail it to you. It's like the Adidas, like 3 stripes. I had to wear it when I was selling season tickets at UCF. So maybe I should mail that to you.
You're only encouraging him, John. You're only
need to wear it. Don't give it to me. You need to wear it.
Okay, next, you guys remind me. I'll try to pull it out. Although, yeah, it's probably like a medium at this point. Maybe not the best. But
awesome, John, man. We appreciate you. Thanks for hopping in, okay?
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
Take care. John's a good egg, man. Anytime you guys get a chance to follow John's stuff, he's really good. Again, a UCF alum, so keep an eye on him. We got some around the kingdom time. Usually there's a sounder I hit here. I'm not going to do that this week, Brian. I can tell you baseball, rough weekend at West Virginia. They finally beat UNF this week, and they are heading to Central Michigan. Actually, Central Michigan's heading to us. But let's check in with Rich Wallace, Brian, and see how he feels about how the game went this week.
All right, Coach, how's it feel to get a win after the last couple?
Yeah, definitely. When you struggle like that on the road in 3 games where you feel like you have a chance to really win all 3 at certain moments, there's a win in every loss if you look at it, if you break down those plays and go through it. But to get back here and play like we did in spurts in that game, couldn't be happier, especially Tyler Nesbitt and what he did on the mound. Not having a start in a while, and to go out there and get us into the game and control the game, and we don't do that without him.
There's a win in every loss. Seems like a UCF Mikeism, so I'm not quite sure how to take that. Softball, Brian, they beat FAU on Wednesday. They're heading to Baylor. They are 26-15, the softball Knights. I know many of you out there, including you, Brian, never missed an episode of Around the Kingdom, including this week's where Eric Lopez yelled about more stuff.
Was this even a spring game, or is this just a spring activity? I mean, maybe we should change the name of this. As I've been on record, I don't take anything at all from the spring game. I think it's whatever, because here's the thing. You just pointed it out. Did they get 9 sacks because the defense played well or because the offense is trying to do things? We don't know.
He doesn't know, but Elo's cranky. Every week Elo's cranky about something. This week it was a spring game, but
it's not around the kingdom if Elo's not yelling about something.
People like you, Trey. Speaking of people like you, Brian.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's the oh hell yeah every time that gets me. Yeah, it's usurped your part. Now the oh hell yeah is the better part. Something that's missing on the show this week, Brian, obviously, was we ran out of Clay's corners. Clay covered all the games. I got no more corners left for Clay. He's searching in corners everywhere. But have no fear. We cannot have a Suns episode without Clay. And so he's here with us tonight. He's going to do the mailbag with us. First off, Clay, big thanks to you, man. Your videos were awesome all year long. I know it's a labor of love putting that stuff together, man. So first off, we really appreciate you putting the time in and making some of those cool videos for us.
No problem. I love doing them. Even though some of them take longer than others, but it's a fun little hobby I have, and if I can dedicate it to UCF, it's always a good time.
You had some trouble finding some footage for some of those games.
Yeah,
I did. So you'd be really surprised. Like Boise State, nowhere to be found. Texas Tech, nowhere to be found. Weird. Like 2023, you would think that they could archive these games somewhere, but it's just not available.
Well, exciting news. So right now, if you go to the Suns YouTube, Clay has been kind enough. He took all of his Clay's corners, put them into one video, and they are now posted on the Sons of UCF YouTube page. So if you missed any of Clay's corners, or you just want to get back in touch with the games and/or here's Clay's sense of humor, check out the YouTube page. Clay's Corner is the exclusive spot where you can find all the games in one, Clay. But we got mailbag. It's not hard to play this game, Clay. I'm going to read a question, and you guys answer it. I think you guys can handle this. Here's the first one. This comes from @the_Dr. Drew. Clay, I'll start with you. What event would you want to add to next year's spring game?
Next year? Oh, that's a good one. What event? I don't know. Something I wish college would adapt that kind of high schools do is you play an actual opponent for a spring game.
Okay.
Even if it's an FCS bottom feeder, just beat up on them for the spring game. That's kind of a cop-out answer though, but actually let's do what is it, apple bobbing for apples.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like the grade school field day activities. Brian, do you have anything you want to throw in there?
Yeah, we're gonna go in UCF Mike's honor. We're gonna do hot dog eating contest.
Oh, solid.
Maybe
Well,
a
you know who
pie eating contest if you can't do hot dogs.
You know who might win that one, and this is a question from Emptiness 4. KJ listed at 266. Clay, does this mean UCF will go 16-0 or 16-0?
I mean, it's always great to be bigger. You might be a little slower, but those SEC linebackers are bouncing off KJ, and I don't know what that means for us. I think that's going to be great. But 266, he's he's a hot dog away from being a lineman, I think.
Yeah.
No offense to KJ, I'm just saying.
No.
But
Don't worry, he's not watching. Black and Gold _ad. A lot of references to racing a horse at the spring game. Is our horse a horse or is it a Pegasus? He's confused. Black and Gold ad needs some help. Clay, do you have any idea? Is that a horse? Is it a Pegasus? Or should we defer to President Brian Peterson on all matters UCF athletics related?
This is a Brian question. I can't answer this.
All right, Brian, what do you got?
So Pegasus, there's multiple Pegasi. There's two different horses that serve as Pegasus, and those horses live better than any of us do. I'll tell you that right now. Those horses used to be, I believe they used to be Lippinzano horses, which are special bred show horses from Italy, somewhere over in Europe. And recently, I think we changed, and they're Arabian. They're of Arabian nature now. I'm not kidding.
Can somebody fact check all of this? Because he could be telling us anything right now. I have no. Clay, do you have any idea? Are you up on Arabian horses? He could be making all this up. I don't know.
This must be from the Brian Peterson mythos. I
you hear the music? Who's talking? Okay, I'm telling you the answers.
Sorry, Mr. President. Sorry.
We have two horses.
I heard
one of them is close to 25 years old, I think, and the other one's a little bit younger. But yes, they are show horses. They are specifically designed, bred that way. And not designed, bred. I don't know. I'm not a horse expert.
It seemed like you might be. Can you tell them apart, Brian? Like if I put the 25-year-old and the 12-year-old in the same room, can you tell them apart?
I can tell the difference between Pegasus and Nugget.
Good Lord. All right, let's go to the next question, Clay. At FLA Box Breakers, thoughts on the O-line, Clay? A little bit better than last year, about the same, little worse. You are a football expert. You played football, so I know you have some insight here. O-line play, Clay. What'd you make of it when you saw the spring game?
I think we could use more depth. At the end of the day, we lost Tylen. Last year, what we did a lot is just weird combinations of the O-line. It seemed like, someone was at a different position every single week. And
$5 fine. $5 fine for coughing. I mean, come
on. Sorry, I don't know. I think we need more depth. And it wasn't looking great for them. I know with spring games, when you're a D lineman, you're pretty much you're used to scrimmaging against the same person over and over again. You know their weaknesses. Our O-line was kind of getting dominated by our second team D-line because it was first team versus second team. I definitely think Gus needs to go in the portal and grab someone. That guy from Texas, seems like a good prospect, but I just think we need more depth. And Paul Rubelt, I don't think he had that great of a night. I'm a Paul Rubelt defender, and I picked him a while ago to be great, and I'm hoping that we just tie these loose ends up, and hopefully going into fall, it's much more cohesive of a unit.
I think Peyton Kirkland is the Texas transfer you're talking about, Clay. And
Yeah,
Brian, I want to
yeah.
ask you didn't see a single minute of anybody playing O-line this spring, so you didn't catch that stream. Let's go to 2 letters, 2 words. With the spring season over, which position groups do you have higher expectations for than last year? And which position groups do you have lower expectations for than last year? So, Clay, I'll start with you. Which position group do you have higher expectations for this year than last year?
Oh, the linebackers. That was our entire issue last year was linebackers. The second the running back made it through the line of scrimmage, they were going for 10. We got Ladarius Tennyson, Ethan Barr. It's a unit that I have much higher expectations for, and that I hope that don't let running backs get 10 plus yards every play. And lower expectations for it's not looking great at in our secondary right now. I think with the loss of Nakai Martinez and but let me think about this. Yeah, I'd say probably our secondary, but also we have time and whatnot to go in the portal and fix that. That guy from Ohio State looks pretty good. Hopefully maybe we can get him. Gus can use his magic.
Brian, higher and lower expectations?
Higher's definitely got to be linebacker, right? I think Clay hit the nail on the head there. I think that's been the area of concern for not just the defense, but the team overall. Lower expectations for running or for a team would probably be running back after the season that RJ had last year. Maybe a little bit of a drop off is coming this year.
Oh no, it's about to get awkward. Oh no, it's about Clay. Do you want to? It's gonna get awkward here.
This is RJ Harvey's biggest fan right here, man.
It's not a slight against RJ at all. I'm just saying that teams are going to be prepared for him now, and are we thus perhaps going to see perhaps a drop off as a result?
It's a lot of perhapses in the same sentence. Clay, do you want to defend your boy?
Well, the only way I could see that happening is if offensive line blocking gets worse. Because I feel like we forget in football, like sometimes a great running back is also a result of your offensive line as well. No offense to RJ. I'm an RJ Harvey defender, and I think our offensive line was I'd give them like a 7, 8 out of 10 for last year. I think they were pretty solid. So if there were a drop off, it'd be in the offensive line, not in my Pookie Sunshine RJ Harvey.
Now it got more awkward. Golden underscore 2 wants to know all of the different transfer portal windows in all sports at UCF. Clay, which person who's transferred has been the most head scratching to you? Which name that's entered the portal has caused you kind of the most head scratch?
Oh man, one Goldie Lawrence. Not the fact that he was like ever a starter, but 2, 3 now different schools and within a one-time transfer window is kind of okay. I understand he'd been a true sophomore this upcoming year would have been true sophomore transferring immediately because you don't think you might start. It's a little odd. I guess that's just the new world of college football, but a true starter, I still want to know why Nakai is transferring. I would like to know. I don't know if it's like a you need to leave situation or if it's just he can do better at Boston College, UCF North as they call it. But I would like to know about that.
Brian, head scratching.
Goldie left because he was told that we were going to be wearing gold jerseys.
There we go. Understand.
Yeah, I really quality assurance.
Head scratching. I'm gonna go basketball and say CJ Walker. I thought that was a bit of a head scratcher.
As of today, Brian decommitted from TCU, so he's apparently back available. I don't know what that means. Did he not get a waiver? So who knows with CJ? I'm going to skip this next question. At Love Not War 311 for football, Clay, what do you want us to go after in the portal? What needs do you think UCF still has in the portal? We got about 12, 13 days left maybe of the portal opening. What needs do you want to see UCF attack if they can?
Secondary. Offensive line. Actually, I'll go offensive line first and then secondary. I think we're solid overall. Losing Nakai wasn't amazing, but it's a patchable hole. I feel like same thing with the offensive line. Not bad. Could be improved. And I feel like if we were to go after anything, we should probably target O-line first.
Brian?
Quarterback. I think that with Timmy taking the high road and hitting the portal, I think that we're going to do a little bit more experienced depth behind KJ. I'd like to see a quarterback come in with a little more experience, some real game time reps would be nice. So I'd go quarterback.
Clay, good luck. You got a fan, buddy. UCF,
Hey, Charlie.
UCF mayor with Timmy gone, as you mentioned. Clay, who's going to be QB2?
Dylan. I mean, what kind of question is that? Who else is there? There's
Riley UCF mayor's question.
I know, but
you look
Riley as a true freshman, I doubt it. EJ Colson's just now coming in, 17 years old, doubt it. It's going to be Dylan's going to be quarterback too, and that's fine. I feel like, that's why a quarterback I don't think is too much of a necessity in the portal, unless you can get like, I don't know, some freshman or coming into this year true sophomore from another school to back up KJ, yeah.
Somehow Clay's screen just got darker. Although news today, Ja'Curry Brown from Miami, potentially UCF maybe talking to him. Brian, who's going to be QB2?
I think he's right. I think it's going to be Dylan Risk.
All right. I guess this is for you, Brian. I'll start with you. From the real SOTG, which is the worst jersey color and why is it gold?
I refuse to answer this question. I love you, Kyle, but I'm not answering that question.
Wow, President pleading the fifth. Yikes. Scandalous. Clay, all right, I guess you get to take this one. What's the worst jersey color?
What's the worst jersey color? I mean, I'm not going to say gold, even though I don't think I've ever seen an iteration of a gold jersey that I've like looked at and was like, yeah, this looks great. Yeah. Terrible. I mean, have we ever seen a pink? I always think about that. Have we ever seen a pink jersey?
Yeah, Oregon did it at one point.
That's right, they did. I'll go with that because I'm not a fan of Oregon's jerseys half the time.
Okay. At Zeebel's UCF, this is a nod to KJ Jefferson's Instagram quote, which was, "Why y'all on my nuts?" He wants to know, Clay, what is your go-to salty snack?
An almond is great. The seasoned ones, the blue diamond.
Sure.
I like the habanero barbecue. Those are great.
A lot of protein. Brian, what's your go-to salty snack? Please don't say KJ's
give
nuts.
Me some sour cream and onion Lay's all day, every day.
Wait a minute.
Some barbecued Lay's.
Don't you live at Wendy's? You're not going to go like Wendy's fries or something?
Oh, that's part of a natural food group. You asked about a junk food snack, I assume. So,
I forgot the food group that was French fry. This is from our friend Mario at Lonely Bee UCF. I don't know if you know Mario, Clay. If you're familiar with him on social media. His question is, will I survive New Orleans this weekend? Correct answer is no, just so you know.
What's he doing in New Orleans? What's going on?
I don't want to play the whole sound, but this is where the Trey Strelko drop that says, "Oh, hell no," would be great because there's no chance that Mario survives New Orleans. Brian, any chance Mario survives?
This can't be his first trip to New Orleans, so I'm going to say yes, but he's going to feel it the next day.
Brian and I were at a game with Mario where he may or may not have been asleep for the better part of 2 quarters, and we're still not sure if he was awake or not. And we have a late ad from our friend at 2 Letters 2 Words. He was stuck in an elevator, apparently. He got out, so spoiler alert. But he asked questions. So, Clay, I'll start with you. If you were stuck in an elevator, which UCF coach from any era, any sport, would you want to have in the elevator with you?
Oof. Well, I've already met George O'Leary, so I won't do that. I didn't meet him. I walked past him. We did a double take. I looked at him.
I met him. I didn't meet him. I walked past him.
No. And then he did a double take at me, like he knew me or something. And then I don't know. I just kept. It was at the Gasparilla Bowl, like exiting.
Okay.
That was weird, by the way. Probably Frosty.
Okay. Brian, who's in the elevator with you, buddy?
I'm gonna go Coach Malzahn.
So,
maybe I can get a little insight, a little inside information.
Gold jersey thing again. All right, Clay, which UCF coach from any era would you not want in the elevator with you?
Oof. Heupel.
Tell me more.
I don't know. He gives me off-putting vibes. I see him. I see his post-game interviews, and I don't know. Something about him. Not that I dislike him. Just I don't think I'd want to be stuck in an elevator with him.
Off-putting seems appropriate. Brian, what do you got?
Coach O'Leary, have you seen that man when he's angry? You do not want to be around him.
That's fair. No, I imagine he
that-
would be displeased in a trapped
displeased.
elevator. That's probably not a good spot for you. All right, last one for you, Clay. Same theme here. Which UCF fan or Twitter follow would you most want to be stuck in an elevator with?
Oh man. This is a loaded question. There's a lot of people, I would and wouldn't.
We're gonna get to that in a second. Yeah, we're gonna get to that.
Okay.
We're getting there.
I don't know. Me and RBJ have become very close. I've hung out with him a lot lately.
Okay.
Probably him.
Okay, Brian, who's in the elevator with you?
Give me Elo. It's always something fun to talk about with Elo. We'll pass the time.
He'll yell at you though. All right, then Clay, who do you not want to be stuck in an elevator with? UCF fan or Twitter follow / personality?
There's a lot I can name off.
I know. That's why we're here. That's why we're here, Clay.
The Bounce House Grilling, that guy gets on my nerves.
Okay.
No offense to him.
Not just
actually
you,
full offense to him.
Yes.
Who else? I'm trying to think. There's one other person that like they hate. Oh, Mike, not UCF Mike, but his name is like MD Knight 116.
Yeah,
he doesn't like me either.
Yeah, you've hit the top two. I think you've hit the top two.
Yeah, he's blocked me numerous times.
He did. Wow, multiple blocks. Brian, who? Mr. President. This is a political answer coming out of you here. I can't wait to hear how you handle this one.
Who would I not want to be stuck?
That's the question. Repeating it's not going to make it any better.
You know what? I'll give you the political answer.
No, of course.
And I'll give you the reason why. If I have to, I don't want to be stuck in an elevator with Dolly because I wouldn't want to subject him to that kind of torture. There's your political answer. I'm doing him a favor.
That's a cop-out.
That's not a cop-out.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Also, CFB Knights.
I would not want to be stuck in an elevator with UCF Mike. I've been on a train with him.
That's fair.
3
No,
hours,
yes.
All right.
If he's drunk, you want to have pants on by the time it's over. All right, I got to get the box for what's in the box. Clay, don't go anywhere.
What's in the box?
Talk amongst yourselves. Let me get the props here. Brought to you by Charlie Hustle, by the way. Promo code TEN1215. Here's the.
I need that new Citronaut baseball shirt that they just dropped.
Go to the website there, cheapskate. 15% off there, Brian. All right, here's the question. Oh, this is a good one. Clay, I can't wait to hear your answer on this one. Clay, explain the difference to me between a highway, a freeway, and an expressway.
The name. I have a highway, a freeway, and an expressway.
Yeah, what's the difference?
One is tolled. Like there's tolls on it.
Which one is tolled?
Expressway?
Sure.
Is it expressway has tolls? A highway is built by the. Oh, he's looking it up. Brian's looking it up.
Uh-oh.
That's cheating.
Look at this. He called you up. Look at this. Wow.
I can see in his eyes.
He's a vet.
Highway is built by the federal government, and a freeway is built by the state government. I have no idea.
Okay. All right, Brian, what's the as you're Googling here, can you give us the official?
According to Google, freeways are usually in an urban setting and have a higher speed limit as opposed to a highway.
Okay.
I think Clay's probably right. Expressway probably means it's tolled.
Oh, okay. So
that would be I don't know that. That's my guess, but yeah, we're going to go with that.
Michael Casey, not a fan of the topic selection on the show this evening. I apologize, Michael.
Michael, it's the off season.
Do you have a topic you want us to talk about, Michael? I got a few minutes left. Throw one on the screen here. The boys are ready. Throw us a topic that we can entertain you with, Michael, and we are here for you. So, Brian, you have no idea about it. You just lied the entire time there, essentially.
What are you talking about?
You have no idea the highway, freeway, expressway.
No. That's what Google said. Google says that freeways are usually in an urban setting and have a higher speed limit. You might wonder.
Here we go.
Highway that isn't classified.
Who cares, Brian? Let's talk kicker. Michael Casey wants to know about kicker. So the question to you, Clay Pasco, kicker.
I'm pulling it up right now. Pulling it. Wait.
Do you know what a kicker is? Is that what you're looking? Okay.
There's me and him right there.
Oh,
Boomer.
So you are pro Boomer. Now, is this just your fandom, or do you think that he will be the best kicking option for UCF?
I mean, if he misses, take him out. You know what I'm saying? He said, in the press conference, he was, struggling with some off the field issues. And even did he mention an injury as well?
He did.
Which, not gonna lie, I feel like if you're still kicking and you're not 100%, might be a little selfish, but I'm sure he's past that now. And we have he was the number 1 high school recruit, the Grant Reddick, right?
Yeah.
And if Colton misses a kick, and then put in Grant and give him a shot, man.
I mean, in Colton's defense, he did say he was being selfish, didn't want to let his team down, didn't tell coaches he was hurt, right? So, I mean, you can respect that, and he kind of owned up to it.
No, I love Colton. I want to put that off. He's really nice.
He is a nice kid.
He's awesome.
Super nice kid.
I think Coach Malzahn has a thing for Colton, right? He's got his guys, and I think Colton is definitely one of his guys. So I don't see a change coming unless he really starts to miss a lot of kicks before we see a change to Grant.
I think Gus seems to always default to the incumbent, right? Like 2 years ago, we had Andrew Osteen and Mitch McCarthy at punter. Osteen had 2 games, and McCarthy came in. Same thing. We had Obarski, and then you brought in Boomer. I think Gus always defaults to the incumbent until, to Clay's point, you prove you can't do it, right? So my suspicion would be this is Boomer's job, and if some point he's not able to get it together, misses kicks, that you have kind of Grant waiting in the wings. I do think the most underrated thing to think about with this, though, Clay, to your point, his injury, is I think you need to see Grant Reddick handle kickoffs this year. Boomer did both last year, right? And as much as I've never been a kicker, I have no idea. The extra taxing on your leg from practice, from games on the kickoffs, does that impede, his injury? Did that sort of exasperate his injury? So I think if you put Grant Reddick on kickoffs, you give Boomer the field goal and the PATs, maybe that's a better strategy. But my guess would be you default to the incumbent. And to your point, Clay, if he's not able to convert, you bring in Grant Reddick, who did miss a 60-yarder in the spring game, by the way, but it was 60 yards. It had the distance, just not the angle. So that's my take on the kicking situation. And to your point, by the way, Clay, Boomer, nicest kid I've ever met. I think I've told the story before. After the Baylor game, it was fans on the field. Obviously, a horrific loss. We go down to the field. I was ready to just run my head into a wall because I was so mad. And one player stayed on the field the entire time, took pictures, signed autographs, met with people, and that was Boomer. Everybody else, rightfully so, by the way, was in the locker room, probably pissed off. Boomer stayed on the field, talked to everybody who came up to him. So he'll always have my respect for being there for the fans and doing the right thing for the fans.
Absolutely. He was, and he even recognized me too, which that was kind of cool. He was like, I know you, but he didn't know my name. But that's cool enough,
Okay.
All battles.
Okay. Well, he knows you, but doesn't know your name, and you may or may not have made eye contact with George O'Leary one time. So, Clay, your star is on the rise. He did a double take. Your star is on the rise at UCF. If people want to follow all the stuff you do, Clay, where can they find you? I know you have a YouTube channel. I know you have a burgeoning Twitter account. Where can people find you?
Oh, they can find me on YouTube, Clay Pasco. That's simple. And same thing with Twitter, Clay_Pasco. But I'm sure if they know you guys, they probably, have heard my name a lot at this point.
What's on the YouTube channel, Clay? I didn't know you had a YouTube channel.
I do. I only have 2 videos. Right? I have a retrospective edit, and I have the Essential UCF collection. Where you can watch all of UCF's games in under an hour. Not all of them, but all of their essential games. Essential.
It's a lot of games. And for those worried, Clay, we have another project for Clay, so we want to keep him around the Suns family. He's got a lot of responsibilities as a student and, hanging out with his friends and being a college kid. But Clay was going to continue to help us out with some stuff. We have a project Clay's going to work on for the Suns, so keep it locked here. We'll keep you updated on that. But Clay, you're a good soldier, man. We appreciate you. Brian, thanks for hopping in for the ever absent Trace Trelko. Again, always appreciate it. Everybody out there in Night Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Take care of yourselves and each other until we talk to you again. Everybody go Knights.
Charge on.
Charge on.
Everybody's charging.